In this video, I'll be breaking down how we collected over $96 million selling info products and why most coaches and consultants never get anywhere close to their actual potential. Through working with clients selling coaching and consulting offers, I've discovered that scaling isn't about creating more offers, posting more content, or working more hours. It's about building a business that can grow without depending on you for everything. That's exactly why I'm making this video today, to show you the systems that drive real growth and what separates a 7-figure operator from an 8-figure business owner. Let's get right into it. Why are information products such a powerful business model? There are so many things we could talk about here, but I think the most obvious one is the cost of fulfillment. You literally get to make something that's worth $5,000, $10,000, $30,000, but you don't even need an actual physical product for. And that's probably the biggest advantage here. No shipping, no production costs, no logistics, nothing like that. You get to sit down and share your knowledge, provide education, provide value, and charge an absolute premium to do so. It is one of the best business models you could possibly ever start or run, because the main thing it requires is just the information in your head. Now, the question becomes, why do most coaches and consultants stay stuck? Why do people get stuck at $50,000 a month, $100,000 a month? Well, first things first, it starts with your offer. If you have a very small TAM, if you don't have a lot of people to sell to, well, to an extent, you're kind of already setting yourself up for failure. The offers that we tend to see work the best are ones that are broad, and any type of person from any demographic can potentially participate on in order to get a result. Now, there's definitely layers and levels to this, because when it comes to B2C biz op or coaching consulting offers, ROI offers specifically, sometimes there's different barriers of entry. In general, I would say these are the best type of offers you can run. From what I mentioned earlier, they are very scalable, they're a very broad market, and they have a very linear, direct ROI. People understand that, hey, if I learn these things, I do these things, the outcome is very clear and I can get XYZ result. I can make 10K a month, 20K a month. It's very easy to understand. It's very simple. And obviously it's a very desirable ROI. Obviously there are non-ROI offers such as health, relationships, so on and so forth. And there's definitely big emotional pulls for people to want to invest in these types of things and utilize this type of education because the pain is so significant. So don't get me wrong, these can be very successful. It's just all in all, from a very simplistic standpoint, when it actually comes down to making money, these tend to be the best offers and the easiest offers for you to be able to sell. Now, going back to my previous point about the barrier to entry. So if you're selling something like a real estate offer, let's say you're buying properties, you're investing in properties, usually you might need a decent amount of capital, a decent amount of credit, prerequisites to actually be able to implement what you're investing in order to get the ROI. That's where there's a barrier to entry outside of just the investment to your program, which can actually create more resistance when it comes to your offer. This is why something like day trading can be so lucrative and be so scalable, because you don't need a certain credit score. You don't need a certain amount of capital up front to an extent. Obviously, they need the capital to be able to invest in your program. But with different offers like this, really they can get by with a laptop, internet connection, and be able to work their way up from a very small account or potentially even get a funded account. And that's just one example, but that's kind of what I mean by the barrier to entry. So one, when you're looking at offers, you want to think about what gives you a very linear ROI, what's very easy for people to understand, and what can a large portion or a large demographic of people invest in. Because if you're selling specifically to accountants that work with business owners above 100K a month, there's not going to be as many people that can do that as people who are looking to fix their marriage, for example. There's just literally more married people than there are accountants working with business owners doing over 100K a month. So again, you got to look at the TAM as one component. How many people can you actually sell to where this is a scalable offer? And how simple is it for people to understand? And then lastly, how easy is it for someone to get started? Because again, if they need all these different prerequisites outside of investing in your program and learning the skill, you're going to naturally create a stronger barrier of entry. Hence, more energy will need to be expended for them to even be able to start on the thing or get the result from the thing. So the opportunity is massive, but opportunity alone doesn't create revenue. The next question is what actually moves the numbers? So what actually drives growth in an information business? We could go a wide variety of different aspects, but when we break it all down, it comes to the ROAS and the profitability. Because at the end of the day, people like to get stuck in all these complex topics, go into all these little specifics and details. But listen, buddy, if you don't put money in the bank, none of this shit is even fucking real, right? And I think that's where a lot of different business owners, offer owners get caught up, is they want everything a specific way, they want everything a perfect way. But at the end of the day, if you collect more cash than you spend on your marketing, fulfillment, costs, and you have profit in the bank, then you can continue to reinvest and grow your coaching and consulting business. I hate to simplify something that's this complex, but if we're being honest, that's what it comes down to. Did you collect more cash than you had to invest? And did you collect more cash and enough cash to reinvest and continue to scale so you can make even more money? That's what actually drives the growth at the end of the day. Are your numbers good? Do your KPIs make sense? And can you continue to dump more of your profit back into your ad spend to get more and more customers and booked calls on the calendar? Why is sales usually the biggest bottleneck? If you're an offer owner or business owner, we can almost boil this down to two simple things. One, you or your sales team is unable to close. Now, why you're unable to close might be for so many reasons. Maybe you have to go back and rethink your offer. Maybe you have to go back, rethink your marketing. Maybe it's the funnel and the steps that people are going through leading up to booking a call. Maybe it's the actual sales call itself, and you have no idea how to take a prospect through a sales process that makes them actually want to spend money by the end of the conversation. It's pretty easy to figure this out because all you have to do is look at your KPIs, look at your front end ROAS, look at your click-through rates, look at your cost per book call, look at your booking conversion, look at your DPL and conversion when they actually get on a sales call. Find the area that is broken and has the biggest leaky bucket and focus on actually fixing that first before trying to worry about everything else. Now, being unable to close could also tie back to two different things. That could be either you're unable to close as the business owner or offer owner, or you have a rep on right now that's unable to close. The first thing you want to do is take a look at the sales process. Take a look at the business in a whole. This is one mistake I see people make a lot, is they'll isolate down to the VSL. They'll isolate down to the sales process. They'll isolate down to what's being said on the phone call. And it can easily come down to one of these aspects, but you need to look at the business as a whole and create congruence across the board, because what you say on an ad needs to be congruent with what you say in the funnel. What you say in the funnel needs to be congruent with what you're saying on the sales calls. So it all has to work in one ecosystem. You have to look at the business as one holistic thing, and then you can go back and isolate using the data from there. Now let's get to the second thing. You're spending all of your time on sales right now. So again, this could be either you're the offer owner and you're taking all the sales calls yourself. We know that's going to be a massive issue, because if you have to be the full-time sales rep, the full-time marketer, the full-time face of the company, the full-time customer support agent, there is physically no way for you to scale this business. And the first thing you need to do is replace yourself. Now, keep in mind, a lot of offer owners like to think that any closer they hire will magically do as good as them. Now, it's definitely possible, and it's also possible a rep does better than you, but one thing they will never have is the authority that you have created when someone has spent all this time looking at you, listening to you, going through the entire process. You will always have more authority when you actually get on the phone. So try not to be unrealistic with your sales reps once they get started, or try to make them sell the same way that you do. And also take in consideration, there might be things that need to actually be in place to prepare people properly that you might have not needed before. Now, the other reason you might be spending all your time on it is because you are the glorified sales manager currently, and you are spending all your time listening to sales calls, babysitting reps, making sure they're doing EODs, making sure they're moving leads over in GHL. Again, it's just another job that you've inherited for no good reason. Instead of being a full-time sales rep, you're the full-time sales manager. There physically is no way for you to be the full-time sales manager and be the face of the company and be the marketer and deal with all the fulfillment. It just goes back to the same problem where you're wearing way too many hats. And don't get it twisted. A lot of people like to think, oh, I don't need a sales manager. I can have one of the closers just step in. Oh, I can just manage it on the side part-time. Do you want to build $1 million a month business? Because if the answer is yes, that is a full-time role. And someone should be able to sit there and listen to recorded calls all day, run multiple sales team meetings a week, optimize, edit the script, go over KPIs, track KPIs, hold reps accountable, do consistent one-on-ones, Q&A calls, so on and so forth, let alone all the hiring, firing, training, and onboarding. Now that you see how acquisition, positioning, and sales work together, if you want help scaling your sales team, click the link in the description where I'll show you exactly how we scale sales teams for info businesses. And that brings us to the final piece, because none of this works without the right team behind you. What changes when you build a sales team versus someone being stuck with one closer or closing themselves? Well, the biggest thing is you can finally let yourself relax and not have to constantly worry about whether your team is going to bring in cash on a consistent basis every single day. You can spend time on things that actually move the needle forward, such as shooting content and being relentless with your marketing efforts to actually bring in more lead flow for your sales team that you know is consistent and can close deals. So number one, when you can scale sustainably and consistently, you can actually increase the budget from 5K a day to 6K a day to 7K a day, knowing there's calendar availability, knowing you are replacing reps as needed, that they're being held accountable, and you can bring new closers on without even having to give it a second thought. The next thing, that reps are actually being held accountable, that there's a system in place that tracks their results, tracks their KPIs, so you can predictably hit ROAS. So you can predictably spend that 7, 8, 10K a day, but know it's not going to be money lost, but money made. And at the end of the month, instead of being freaked out about your P&L, you know you've actually netted more than you've spent. Now the question becomes, how do all of these pieces tie together? Well, first things first, you now know you have an offer that's scalable, you have a big enough TAM, and you can consistently hit your numbers because it's an offer people will clearly understand and want to invest in. Obviously, a confused mind never buys. So the more clear and linear your offer can be, the simpler it is for people to understand, and the easier it is for people to get an outcome, the more money that you stand to make long term. Then you actually have a sales process and a sales team that can keep up with the offer that you've now created. You obviously can't scale to $1 million a month with an amazing product and an amazing vertical alone. What's going to happen if you have all these customers that want to buy, but you're either still stuck on the phones yourself, still stuck micromanaging closers, or even worse, no one is able to bring any deals in at all. So a sales process and a sales infrastructure that can actually scale up and down with your marketing efforts and consistently get you a profitable ROAS. And actually marrying these two things together, making sure everything is congruent from offer, ad, marketing, funnel to how your sales team is pitching and how they're going through the sales process, where customers feel congruent and clear all the way through clicking an ad to giving you $10,000, $30,000 in cash when they get on the call. And then this allows you to work on the business instead of in the business, to actually focus on revenue generating activities such as putting more into your marketing efforts, shooting more content, getting more people through the pipeline, more educated, more indoctrinated, to continue to feed your sales team that actually grows with you instead of being the bottleneck and slowing you down. Not to mention having an amazing leader to run, manage, and scale this sales team so it takes zero work, zero effort from you specifically, but also gives you peace of mind and consistency that you know you will be fine no matter how much you spend on ads. And then long-term, being able to actually hold these sales reps accountable, actually keep track of their KPIs so you know where they're at all times and are consistently replacing them as needed. Now that you've actually seen what drives growth in coaching, consulting, info businesses, and why systems and sales teams create scale, you can start identifying the biggest constraints holding back your business now. Click the link in the bio to learn more about how we scale sales teams for offers just like yours. And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.